Welcome, I'm Jon Caldara, president of the Independence Institute and your devil's advocate. A little later in the program, Amy Cook joins me to talk about what was going to be the fracking war this year. But first, on that smaller station, KUSA, Kyle Clark, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. This is plush. I like this.
Yeah, well,
nice.
Welcome to the nice side of the tracks. It's
very,
good.
Very nice.
This is how the better half lives. Hey, I'm really sorry that these fracking measures did not make it, because the amount of revenue that would have poured into TV stations like yours, you would have been able to buy your second, thgrand, fourth, and fifth home. So
yeah, if only there was some other race for which there were ads being generated, you know? I mean, if only.
If only. This was going to be like 50 million, excuse me.
Yeah, it's going to be a big deal. It was going to be a big deal.
Were you surprised by the compromise?
I was surprised by the compromise. Not that it happened, but just the timing of it. I mean, what happened in those intervening 2 weeks between when Hickenlooper came out and said all hope is lost and when they suddenly had a deal? I think that's fascinating. I don't think we really know what happened yet.
I think it's piecing together. I think there was a lot of Washington pressure on Polis that if we lost Udall or Hick this election because of fracking, there was one guy who was not going to move forward in D.C. and up the Democratic chain, and I think it was all Polis. Hey, I want to talk to you a little bit about news. Now,
sure.
Now you're what, 18, 19 now, and
there you go.
And you haven't been in the business all that long compared to old timers, but local news coverage on television stations continues to change. A lot of local political coverage, it's tough to find. Adam Schrager was one of the best.
Set the standard.
Set the standard here, and I think a lot of folks try to get close to that, and they do. But Adam was just one of a tough reporter, but also on television. Why is it that political news, local political news, seems a lot harder to do on local television?
I think some of it has to do with the culture within newsrooms. I think it can sometimes be a tough sell to convince the people in charge that the people at home care about it. I know that's not a struggle that's unique to the 9 newsroom. I know Eli Stokel's a tremendous reporter over at Fox 31 has talked publicly about the same struggles he has over there. I think that sometimes...
Talk to me a little bit about that part, which is it's hard to get management to say, hey, people at home do care about what's going on in city politics or in your school district or something like that. Why is it a hard sell to management?
Well, because
if you do this right, you could lose your job. So be really honest.
Very good. Here's the thing. You're always competing against other things going on. It's not cover politics or throw up color bars. I mean, there's always something else out there, and there's a perception that perhaps politics isn't as sexy or it's just politics. It's not just politics. It's people's lives. It's our culture. It's our society. It's all of those things. So I think a lot of it is incumbent on people who cover politics to pitch it better, to make their stories more compelling, more TV friendly. Because let's face it, a lot of politics is people sitting around in rooms talking about things.
I mean, I've learned with television news, compared to newspapers and radio, there needs to be a visual aspect to it, and people protesting, great stuff. People, and that's really all you can do in politics. Otherwise, it's just a committee room, or it's a bunch of people talking to each other and lobbying each other. That's not really all that exciting.
Yeah, we call that BOPSA, bunch of people sitting around, and it's just, it's anathema to TV news, BOPSA. So that's the last thing that anybody wants. But it's incumbent on political reporters to pitch stories that are more interesting. That's why I love fact-check pieces. Our Brendan Rittiman at 9 does a lot of those. I do some that are more society, chain email type of fact checks. I love that stuff because you can debunk something or show that something is credible, ding, 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 ding on TV, and it clicks. It works. People like that.
Talk to me about online, because now that, well, nobody watches television any longer. I hate to tell you this.
That's what they tell me.
Yeah. But everybody can watch what is the story they like. I mean, there's so many 9 News stories that then I send out, I put it on my Facebook, I put it on Twitter, and it pops up on Complete Colorado or all sorts of other places, and people almost get it like menu items.
Sure. News
by menu item. What's the future of TV news when it comes to this new world, the YouTube world?
Well, I think there's 2 separate tracks that we're talking about here. There's the future of news, period, and the future of TV news. I work for a TV station, but I'm fairly early on in my career. I want to do this for decades to come. So I'm mostly focused on what is the future of news. And people's hunger for news, for content, for information is stronger than it ever was before. We demand it instantly. We demand context. We demand images to go with words, and we think that we should have them right away. So that hunger is very good. You talk about the idea of more and more eyeballs moving online. That's well and good. we have a great website. We have a digital-first mindset where we're looking to file for the website before things even go on TV. But of course, at the end of the day, the ad revenue online is nothing near what it is on TV, so the model is going to have to change.
The pitching that happens, I remember seeing a YouTube video of, I forget what it was, but you could tell that an advertising agency or some publicity firm sent out a PR package to all these different stations, and the anchors read it almost verbatim. And they made it sound like it was fresh. I forget which, you've seen this clip as well.
I have, yep.
And it just shows you how bad news can be.
It's embarrassing.
It is embarrassing, but only people catch it. But if it's done here in Denver, and it's done in New York, and it's done in Pittsburgh, very few people catch it. But that it's for me, it shows that the speed has to go out, that there's not even time, if you get a story or a human interest story, that you've got to take it and run with it, because you've got to be on the air, and there's no time to fact check it, there's no time to rewrite it, there's no time to put it in somebody else's voice.
I would disagree. I think there's always time to fact check it. And the sheer number of stories that get pulled from our air at the last minute is a testament to the fact that things need to be fact checked, and there's always time to fact check. I mean, our anchor team has carte blanche to say, this story has not been properly vetted. It's not ready to go out the door to the customer. I mean, almost like the chef at the front of the kitchen watching the plates go by. If one's not ready, sorry, circle it around. You know, we're not serving that tonight. That happens. That happens a lot. Of course, you don't see that. You don't hear that. As for these tapes that we see, I think it's on Jimmy Kimmel, where it's anchors reading the exact same thing in city after city after city. That's embarrassing. That should not be happening. That's anchors who aren't rewriting stories. That's anchors who aren't taking the time to contextualize
where does that
things.
Story come from? I mean, when you see it on
Lord
Kimmel.
knows. It could come from any number of different places. Most likely what we're seeing on those shows is things like consumer health reports that get sent out from a certain place, or entertainment news that gets sent out from a certain place. CNN is feeding us material. NBC is feeding us material. Associated Press is feeding us material. But it's incumbent upon us to make it relate to people here in Colorado. And if you're just going to rip and read, then you're going to end up looking like a buffoon on Jimmy Kimmel, because you're reading the same thing that somebody's reading in Sheboygan.
The biggest question. Now, I've been here since I was a little pup, all right?
Yeah.
Same story runs, and it is amazing. Every time it snows, it seems as snow had never been invented before. Oh my God, it's like flight. And so out go the crews. So there's some chick in a parka standing by a viaduct in bad weather.
Yeah.
Why? Why? Tell me, why does this work?
Well, it works, for one, because people are interested in it. Whether they like it or whether they hate it,
they see that
they're interested in it.
Out their window. Explain this one.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So we don't
people
get political news. We don't get political news on local television, but they show pictures outside their window.
You're drawing a straight line from no political news to chick in the parka in the parking lot who's getting snowed on.
Exactly what I'm doing.
I think the line may curve a little bit.
No, it doesn't. Trust me. I'm older than you. I know these things. Why is it such a draw? I mean,
people love weather. It's the universal impactor in people's lives. I mean,
but more so in this market, I think. Am I wrong on that?
Well, I mean, keep in mind the number of people here who are transplants. Who apparently, after years of living here, still can't comprehend what the weather does. I think that has something to do with it. I think there's a voyeuristic factor in terms of like, oh wow, somebody's really getting hit with weather today. I think that's part of it. I also think the stations overdo it.
No, they don't.
They do.
They can't.
They do. All the ones except for ours.
You do it just perfectly.
Right. Yeah.
I find when you have your half-hour news, and I know you do 9 o'clock, which is, I think, full hour, right?
Full hour, yeah.
And so you do an hour and a half straight.
Yep.
You wear adult diapers?
Only on the days when that's absolutely necessary.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
To keep it going, the amount of news, there's always seems to be this clock. Big news, and then human features. And then sports. And in this town, sports seems to be king.
Sometimes sports is news. Sometimes sports is ahead of those other things. But yes.
Yeah. When is sports ahead of everything else?
When it has widespread impact and importance and that kind of thing. You know, a Peyton Manning injury would likely be the lead story on a newscast just because of widespread interest. I think when you talk about the way that it goes from some heavier news to something lighter and then so on, I think part of that is just for the idea of emotional pacing. If we were to sit there and say, these 10 horrendous things happened today, and when we get back, some slightly less horrendous things, nobody is going to stick around for that. I mean, you have to give people an emotional break and give people some highs and lows, because otherwise it's either just complete fluff all the time or it's a downer.
No, no.
You just want to hammer it.
It's a horror movie. It should be gory all the time.
Jon Caldara's Parade of Horrors coming to a TV station near you. Yeah.
Local news. The ratings war between the 3 and actually now 5 stations. How goes this? It's always a battle, and it's always fun to see what happens on ratings. While we have only 1 newspaper now in town, and we still have 5 TV stations plus Univision.
4 and a half. Yeah, 2 and 31 are close together.
And 3 in
Univision and Telemundo. Yep.
All right. There's still the opportunity to scoop stories. I think radio relies too much on what goes on in the Denver Post. I think there's a lot of rip and read that happens there. With television, you actually have the ability to do investigative journalism.
One would hope.
Which doesn't happen in newspapers anymore. There's just no oxygen for
I think the Post does some. I mean, I think losing the Rocky was a big deal. I think that the Post losing that direct line peer was a real blow, in the same way that if all of a sudden we lost a TV station or 2 in town. I don't think that would be good for 9 News. My bosses might disagree, but I don't think that would be good, because you want that competitive pressure so that everybody's out there doing their best.
Tell me the biggest screw up. You read for a living. That's what you do. You used to be a reporter, by the way, which sounds cool. And reporters want to get up to be readers behind the desk. I don't quite understand.
Is there a more pejorative term that you could come up with than reader? No, I mean,
pretty boy reader, I think, would work.
That's nice.
Your job is to read without moving your eyes too much or stumbling.
Who do you think writes it?
I have no idea.
Okay, see, this is interesting. Okay, so everything that I read on the news, I have either written or rewritten. So some of it's my own original reporting. Generally, don't wave my hand and say this is my reporting. I mean, it's a story presented like any other, or it's a report that I've worked on in conjunction with a reporter or a producer, or in some cases, it's something that a reporter or producer has written and then I have rewritten, added context. Checked it for factual accuracy, that kind of thing. If I'm just reading something that's been handed to me, then something has gone very, very wrong. That's bad news.
Teleprompter goes out.
Sure. That's when you see who can do it and who can't.
Really? Has that happened to you?
Sure. Yeah, it's happened to everybody. Yeah.
Have you ever played tricks on the teleprompter? Just screw up your co-anchor?
Absolutely not. I fear Adele Arakawa deeply.
I can understand that. Where do you hope to be in a year from now?
Here.
2 years from now?
Right here on this show.
The perks are better here. Pay's better there. Yes. The perks are better
The mugs alone are just, they're astonishing. No, I want to be here in Denver. I want to be here in Denver. Yeah.
Kyle, thanks. Always appreciate it. Let's do it again soon.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this. The fracking debate continues.